Hi, Genesys here. Today we're gonna talk about the zero cost cards that are needed for the format or are pretty good and still considerable for this format. We are gonna analyze each card individually. So guys, if you want to see more video like this, let me know. Let's start with the Alley of Justice Psycho Reader. This card is a DD Crow for 2 monsters that are light. Actually, is not a card that you want to play, but in the future, when there are some point change or something like this, could be a pretty interesting card because I especially doesn't expect that this card is gonna cost points and could have a lot of potential. Now, let's move to the Alpha. Alpha is the cheap version of the Pantacratops. This card costs 0, does the pretty similar job as Pancratops, could be a pretty good card actually in the meta, especially in going second deck like the Gem Knight that we have seen on the channel. The fact is that is not worth um, is not worth play Pancra only because there is this card that costs 10 points less for each card. That is pretty good and pretty amazing. Now we have Chaos Hunter and the Lancea is as well. This card costs 0, are pretty good card, but not in this meta. In the right meta, this card are must have in the side deck. This is not the meta, but you need to keep it in mind and buy it if you doesn't have this card and you want to play Genesys more often in the future. Diddy is one of the most generic card of the Genesys format, especially in the side deck. This card is a pretty solid card, even in the main deck of most deck. Cost 0, banish a card in the opponent's graveyard is pretty good against a lot of matchup. Nothing to say more about it. Kaijus in general. We have Kaijus, we have cards like Lava Golem and Sphere Mode, we have Sand Claws, we have a lot of cards that do the Kaiju thing. This card is especially good in this meta, this kind of type of card, because one of the most relevant meta deck is the Super Quantum deck that bring on the table a big tower that is pretty annoying. So this card could be a huge card to have. You can also main deck it in the right deck like Vanquish Soul because we want maybe Fire Monster, Earth Monster, depends on the quantity, and is pretty good. Now, for the steel card we have Electric Virus and Puppet Plant. Are old school card. This card I don't think are the best option, but could be a good card in a future where there are mono meta or a lot of deck with the same type. You could run this card, steal the monster, and combo with the opponent's monsters. Now, a card that if you are not running in the side deck, you should run it right now. This card is amazing in this format because there are no link. What the Flying Sea does, when the opponent normal special summon, you can special summon this card to the opponent's field in defense position, and the opponent cannot exit summon. Even with this card, it's like a Contact C, but better in this format. Obviously, Contact C costs 1000 points. If he costs 0, is obviously a better choice, but This card that costs 0 is amazing, especially against deck like Super Quantum, Exosister, and other Xyz deck like Madolce 2. Now, we have Ghost Reaper Winter Chariot. This card is a pretty solid card that have a little problem. Is good against a lot of deck, especially the zero cost engine deck, but is problematic to run it in a meta where there are an high cost engine deck, because if we wanna hit a high cost engine card in the extra deck of the opponent, we need to play it too only for the target of cherry. That is not optimal. If there is a meta with a low cost engine, could be a really considerable card that you want to play it. Now, we have new material and spellbound that is not here. I'm gonna show you right now. That's the card. This card have the same reason to play, but new material is an entrap, spellbound is a going first card. This card is for the meta when you know that the opponent have a choke point on use a determinate monster to X summon, fuse or synchro summon, or even I don't know, tribute for other things. If you see a meta like this, you should probably consider to play these cards. I insert this card only for like a meme fact that this card is searchable in many ways, like the next card. Could be a one-off, maybe inside deck when you go first and you want play against a grind deck or something like this. Probably this card will not see so much play, but I want only to remember that this card exists and some player could play this card. Same reason for the Anewata. If there is a meta where there is a deck that could try to FTK us or do us a lot of damage with effect during 2 turn or so, this is a searchable card in so many ways that could help us. Now, for the card that could be effectively played more, Miradora. This card is pretty good. Is a solid entrap. You can run it in so many deck. Is pretty good, especially in the Dragon Ruler strategy because it's searchable. This card negate the extra deck monster if opponent monster special summon a 2k or more from the extra deck. You can negate one monster that is special summoned from the opponent and until this card is on the field. The most powerful card is that the activation and the effect of this card cannot be negated, and this is pretty good. Have huge stats. Is a card that could have a lot of potential. Kurigara is on the same line of the Kaiju cards, have different use because requires that our opponent activate the effect of the monster that we want to tribute. Is pretty good in some meta. I don't think this is the meta for playing this card, but could be pretty good. Now it's better to play Kaijus right now. The Juggler is here for the same reason of an Iwata. The better part of the Juggler is that he is also a searcher. that search the performance card is only here for this motivation. Fire Attacker and Impulse are amazing cards that a lot of people are running right now, especially in the Vanquish Soul and Fire King deck, because are fire monster. This card is like a Phantasme for the deck that requires to cycle or want to have a better hand or discard card. Is pretty solid. Most of the deck search from the field with the monster effect, so you usually doesn't have a dead card in the end. The problem is that you need to run the fire attacker that is a brick, but uh, is is a good to do things to do and is not problematic. Now, Schoolmeister is another zero cost hand trap like the Diddy Grow. In this meta, I think probably Schoolmeister is better than Diddy Grow. Have a different usage, but there are a lot of quantity of Dragon Tail that usually play with the chain with Altarion 1 and Monster Effect in the graveyard, chain 2 and 3. That I think is wrong in this format because there are less bell in the format, so you can play better around the Schoolmaster and not play around the bell. I think is a better option. But until the people have the mentality of playing advanced, Schoolmaster could be a better card in the meta right now. Now we have cards like Sweet Scarecrow that are end of battle card. There are a lot of cards like this. I only want to mention these cards. Um, the better card I think for the to consider is the full 8. This trap is a pretty solid card that helps us to survive another turn. Is played only in the Paleozoic strategy, but is a solid card. You need to understand that in this format, cards like this are playable because we can decide to play a slower strategy because not all the decks are explosive like in advanced. Now we have Spell Trap Destroying card, we have Cosmic and Twin Twister and a Tornado. Have different usage. Cosmic and Twin Twister are the most used cards. Cosmic is more for the deck that think I don't need to pay life points for the combo of my deck. I can easily pay 1,000 life points. I don't want to discard, I want a spell trap removal. Twin Twister is the other side for I want to have the possibility to remove the spell trap and I am a deck that doesn't have problem to discard cards or have benefit for discarding cards or have a card in the graveyard. A Tornado is here for the deck that want finish fast game uh, or are going second deck that want to OTK your opponent. This is the twisted thing about the three spell trap removal. Now, the Chronomore is the best zero cost card actually in the meta. Except if you are a deck that going second and want to decay, you are gonna run Dark Chronomore or in the main deck or in the side deck in all the other deck. There is no reason to not play Dark Chronomore. A lot of deck cannot play around it. If you want, you cannot side it in some decks because maybe you are playing against a deck like I don't know Paleozoic that doesn't require. but especially in this meta there are so many decks that dies from Dark Ruin no more, so you need to run Dark Ruin no more. Pot of Extravagance and Light of Secca and Upstart are 3 draw engine cards that are cost 0, and I want to mention it so you can keep reminded this thing that this card costs 0, you can play a deck based on Secca's Light and have a draw potential with 0 cost. Same for a deck like EV Trap deck that want to play Extravagance. Upstart is for that deck that want to have a little more consistency, but you don't want to play more end trap because maybe you are gonna break too much. And Droll is a card that is played, but not so much because is a cost card and not too much deck can run it. Shadow Fusion is a board breaker card, cost 0, a lot of shadow cost 0. You can run it the combo with construct and so or spend 10 points to summon the Apocallone and have a lot of interruption with just one card. Could be a pretty useful card in a deck like Dracotail especially. Another board breaker card is Swords of Concealing Light, is a zero cost version of a Book of Eclipse. The only problematic of this card that is a continuous card, so it can be Cosmic or Twin Twister on this card doesn't resolve. For the other reason, this card is amazing. So keep in mind if you are running a deck that usually the opponent is gonna side in cards like Cosmic or Twin, maybe you should consider other option instead of Sword of Concealing Light. If you are on a deck that usually opponents doesn't consider a spell trap deck that want to be removed, you should consider this card as a valid option. Now, one of the most powerful zero cost card is Ultimate Slayer. Why Ultimate Slayer is so powerful in this format? One is cost 0 card. Two, the opponent cannot answer to this card with the monster effects. That is amazing. Three, usually in the most of the deck you have a lot of space in the X deck and you could play the best Ultimate Slayer target. For the fusion you can play Garura that you can shuffle back a fusion monster and draw one, so you cycle the Ultimate Slayer. And you need to remember that Ultimate Slayer is not once per turn, so you can draw another Ultimate Slayer maybe and use it again. For the Synchro you have two targets that are Malong and Packbeat. Malong is good against some matchup that are different from the matchup that are useful for Packbeat. That is a choice you can use Packbeat or Malong. I especially recommended Malong if you need to choose about them, but if you have space, play both, I guess, is not problematic. For Dixis, you have the Aggregator and the Skyblaster Vylon. Aggregator negate face up, Vylon pop a set card, have the opposite direction for the sense of the card. If you want, you can play bot. If you are running a K9 deck, you are probably still play Vylon from the other motivation. So this card is pretty solid and amazing. Now, the trap card. These cards are cards that are good generically, especially in the side deck. We are gonna talk about this one by one. Forbidden Apocrypha. I'm gonna read it for you and then I'm gonna explain why this card is pretty good in this meta. You can declare a type of card, Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz. If there are two or more monsters of the declared type on the field, each player send all the type of the monster to the graveyard. So, if you are gonna play around a deck that is running an only type of extra deck monster strategy, you can choose to break the entire board of your opponent for free use. There is no reason to not play this card unless you doesn't have space to side in going first card. The fact is limited to deck that are based on the X deck monster as the boss monsters. So is a good card, but you can choose to not play for this reason. But I think is a pretty solid option. You should consider it, especially if you are running a deck that doesn't require the extra deck monster or are not too relevant, like Megalith or Vanquish Soul. Orn is here because is a counter trap that negate the summon of a monster and skip the opponent main phase. Is here because in a deck that want to play a slow strategy, this card is a pretty good card, especially if you are a slow deck that will lose from cards like Shifter or cards um, like this that give us a flood for a turn. We can skip the turn, make it safe, and restart from the turn next. Gravity Collapse is no sense that this card is 0. If you are gonna play a Synchro deck and you are not running this card in the side deck, I think you are crazy. Or you didn't remember that this card exists. What this card does, when opponent summon a monster, even if a normal summon or special summon inherit, you can tribute a summon, tribute a synchro monster, negate the summon, destroy the monster, and the opponent cannot summon anymore for the turn. I think except for deck like Labyrinth or Paleozoic that usually are gonna set 5 and pass, you are gonna do the turn skip for the majority of the deck because no one is playing around this. Not all the deck can play around this, so it's amazing. Another card that is amazing and is no sense that is cost 0 is Iron Thunder. This card is here because is a Solemn Judgment, if you wanna say like this, that costs 0 for only card on the field. I don't think that is gonna too problematic this card to negate only on the field. You need only to remember that the pop of the colon of this the Iron Thunder is mandatory, so the opponent can play around the Iron Thunder, summoning the monster or activating the spell in the same spell trap zone or monster zone of your other interruption. So keep it in mind this thing. For the other reason, this card is amazing. Now, Lost Wind. Lost Wind is a old card that could be pretty relevant in a deck that want to mill or want to have a long game, because this card is a interruption that comes 2 times or can be taken from the graveyard if you mill it. Lost Wind, what the Lost Wind does? Lost Wind negates the effect of a special summoned monster and half its attack. The attack is halved permanently, And if the opponent special summon a monster from the extra deck, you can set this card. You cannot activate in this turn unless you are playing a deck like Odeon with a Temple, and banish when it leaves the field. But the fact is, this card is pretty good in slow strategy deck because you can have multiple uses from only one card drawn. Now, the last card is the most meme card, but if you are running a particular deck, I don't know, a burn deck that does damage and try to FTK, I don't know, this card is an option. I put it, if you see, in the side part of the deck list, if we're gonna say it, because it's MFing. But you need to remember that this card exists. So guys, these are some of the cards that I think you should buy, or you are gonna need to consider to play in the decks. If you want to see a video more like this or other tier list or something like this, let me know in the comment. And guys, see you to the next video.